Hello and welcome to the Captain Bob Flight Sim podcast. Today we have Phil from the AuthentiKit project, and we're going to learn a lot about the super awesome AuthentiKit control system and what it's all about. So, Phil, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, Trevor, thanks for having me on your podcast. Sure, I will give you a quick background, and then happy to talk about it. Any opportunity to talk about AuthentiKit. My friends are getting a bit tired of it. So it began. It all kind of kicked off when I got into VR, and I was looking for just more and more immersion, and decided that the only way to get it was to have replica controls that just felt like the real thing and just were in the right place and just gave you that sort of tactile feedback. So about a year ago, AuthentiKit kind of started really. It was probably early December when I released the product as a freeware, downloadable, 3D printable flight control for a Spitfire. And over the last year, it's kind of grown. We've got a kind of a whole Spitfire cockpit now. We've got several hundred people on Discord, and it's turning into a fun project.
Yeah, so that's really cool. I love the AuthentiKit project. I think I heard about it 2 years ago, but I think it's incredible the amount of engineering that goes behind them. I'm holding one on camera right now, but
Great, great.
but it
What
is so cool to have. There's
do
like,
you got there? What do you
well,
have?
I have
I can't
the
see it.
yeah, it logs off or it doesn't let me talk to you whenever I have the camera on for some reason. But I think I shared it in the Discord. Um, it's in two pieces, which it's only supposed to be in one, but
Right.
you can see everything is very like, or I guess you can't see, but the viewers can see that everything
Okay.
is very nicely put together, and it's actually a really like I was surprised at how easy the build process was.
Yeah, that was crucial. I had a few sort of ground rules I decided on at the beginning that there's no shortage of fantastic projects like yours, for one, out there, and and if you're prepared to sort of get yourself a soldering iron and sort of splash solder all over the place until you know what you're doing and all this sort of thing, there's amazing things you can do. But I just decided that if I was going to go to the trouble of creating these things, um, I just wanted to get as much benefit as possible from it in terms of as many people benefit from it. And I thought, if I make this something that needs soldering and metal work and then sanding down and sorts of things I can't be bothered with either, then it would limit the number of people who could sort of get onto it. So I just set some rules that there'd be no soldering. It would be easy to assemble. You wouldn't need to cut anything. You wouldn't need to know anything about aluminium in extrusions. None of the stuff that have people getting kind of confused. I thought all of that has got to be not part of this project. So
Hmm.
yeah, you said a couple of years ago because it was. I mean, it was a year and a bit when I kind of said, right, I've got a product. But there was a good year plus prior to that where I was trying to solve these problems about how do you make a reliable joint when you can't solder, and how do you uh, how do you just make things strong enough and all that sort of thing.
Definitely. I think one of the super cool things about AuthentiKit is your design for manufacturing, or I guess design for building, with everything like that. And it's kind of something I've been trying to kind of implement into mine, although I'm not as good at it. But yeah, everything is super easily screwed on, um,
Mm.
and and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember what a breakthrough it was when I realized that in your CAD software you could design screw threads because I'd spent ages just sort of using screw heads, and then that kind of creates complications
Hmm.
sometimes to try and embed one, and then you get that thing where you can get the little brass nuts, and you can sort of heat those and bed them in so you can kind of melt in a really strong brass sort of screw
Hmm.
fitting into the design. So I did that sort of thing. Tried all sorts of stuff. but yeah, if you just design a screw thread into the part, and it's surprising how strong this PLA and other 3D print materials are. So it was absolutely fine. Um, Everything's just all been about them minimizing. Just I just want it to be like Lego. I want people to think, yeah, this is like Lego. I can do this. This is not a DIY project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of your like Lego philosophy, you have the kits available too. So
Mm.
do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the other thing I realized at the start is that um, one of the most daunting things would be if somebody had to just go and find a rotary encoder and a Hall sensor and all sorts of stuff. The first things I did, I kind of knew what a potentiometer was, so I made some bits and pieces with that. Somebody said, "Oh, you should be using Halls. That's the way to do it." And I remember trying it out, and it didn't work at first. So I thought, "Oh, this is really tricky stuff. You got to really know what you're doing for this." And then, but when you get it right, it's extremely simple. So I thought, right, this is going to really put people off, thinking they've got to source these things, where to get them from. So that's when I found a friend and said, look, will you make kits up? Because I don't want to be selling kits and being distracted with a business side of things. I just want to design things and grow the project. So I said, will
Mm-hmm.
you sell kits so that people can just have everything in a box? Because I think that's the only way that we'll get that wider audience. And let's keep it to some standard parts. Um, I've had people saying, "Oh, you should use this spring and this button's really great," and so on. And I thought, no, if people had to go and source millions of different parts and every different project has got different parts in it, then that again will just become too difficult. So let's try and do everything with some the minimum number of simple standard parts, and then people can get hold of those and get used to using them, and then they make one thing and they get confidence, and then they go make another thing. That's what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the standardized parts. It was super nice for me because I already had M3 screws and stuff, so I just
Yeah,
slapped those right on. Um,
yeah.
I think it's really cool what you're doing with the next, or I like to call it the next generation of like of desktop aviators. Actually, I think that's trademarked, but like people who like flight simulators. Um,
Hmm.
it's really cool that you're getting so many people into this hobby.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Spitfire thing was just the way to start because well, I love Spitfires. Everybody loves Spitfires, and they're
Yeah.
sort of iconic. And you can get a HOTAS stick for a fighter jet and so on, but you can't get a spade grip stick for a Spitfire. So I thought that's a great thing to start with, but it'll go. Yeah, I want it to be much wider than that. And yeah, I could see that people who just aren't into flight simming could say, "Can you? Wow, I can't believe you can really do this. You can put,
Hmm.
say in VR, you put a VR headset on and you just reach out and you're holding the thing that you can see in your headset. That would be amazing if people just got into flight sim because they could, when they suddenly their eyes were open as to what's possible.
Yeah, it's really cool. The I like to. I guess what's your opinion on VR? Because or like VR versus home cockpits. Kind of like what's your take on it?
It's funny, I've just been reading a thread in AV Sim a few hours ago where somebody it's they have the forum for VR and then they have the forum for 2D, and generally they sort of keep separate. But a guy in the 2D had said, "Wow, I've just the convert kind of thread. Wow, I've just tried it. I can't believe it. It's just I can't go back and so on." And then it's become a really hot thread, and people are saying, "Yeah, I know. Wow, join the club and everything." Then there's other people saying, um, "Yeah, you get that buzz, you get that excitement, and then sometimes you find it's not quite for you." And I've stuck with it. I like it. I never really got into 2D. It just didn't give me that sense that I was really in the plane, even though I always wanted since the Oculus, that resolution and the field of vision. That that would be the thing, wouldn't it? Put the two together would be fantastic. But I kind of get it where the 2D with a big wraparound screens, that's immersive. The detail's amazing on modern monitors.
Hmm.
And then if you can build a cockpit if you want to commit, of course. That's the thing. If you want to commit to an aircraft, then great, go make the cockpit. And if you want to learn and train, there's some fantastic cockpit projects like yours, of course. And for me, I want to just go between different aircraft, um, and they're not all um, sort of military combat sort of things either. I mean, I'm going through the FS Academy stuff, that training thing that you can get for Microsoft Flight Simulator at the moment. So just sort of going around in the Robin and the Cessna and so on, and so I've got all kinds of bits and pieces people haven't seen yet, little kind of the R400 flat levers and trim wheels, just so I can kind of reach out and get the right thing in the right place. So I'd like all of these things to sort of come out. And in fact, I'm hoping this is the year that we kind of get a real step up, because I've completed the Spitfire now, by and large, and what I'm working on at the moment is a sort of set of training videos and a sort of SDK modules.
Oh,
So there's going to be a
cool.
kind of how to build a throttle lever, and it'll be like part one. I've kind of done part one. It was a bit too rough, and it was just a two lever thing, just with like throttle and mixture. How to do it in Fusion. I don't know Blender, but if somebody had Blender, a Blender version would be good. Where you just sort of sketch the thing out and you say, right, you're going to need a thing that will give you positional information with a whole sensor. So you just drop this thing in and just align it, and then draw the shape of your lever. Right, now do you need a button somewhere? Right, we've got a little button module or component, drop that in. So all the things where people go, I've got no idea how to do the electronics, that's a total mystery. I just say, right, I've got a little, again, like, technical Lego, you can make your
Hmm.
Lego shapes, and then they give you little motors and stuff. So these little things, you just drop them in, and they do the tricky stuff. Um, and then the design for the hubs there. So if you're making a throttle, there's already a throttle input. You just need to use the standard that is 8 wires, and you will assign them to the throttle and the prop and so on, and you've got room for a button. So when I make these videos, I'm hoping that there'll be quite a few people coming out saying, right, I want to make such and such. I followed your video, and I'll help people and give them some pointers on it. So that's, yeah, if that happens this year, that's my goal for this year. That would be amazing.
That would be so cool. I like your drag and drop kind of concept of like having standardized components. I really like that. Um,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The minimum possible is my hope, again, just so that people go, right. One of those, that's what we need. And like the thing I made that did the flap sleeve on the Spitfire, which you and I talked about
oh
in
yeah.
in relation to a fuel switch. It On the flap sleeve, it just goes click up or click down, but it's designed that you could have as many clicks as you want. You have to sort of fit them in the size of the thing, and each click sort of requires a certain sort of degree of movement,
Hmm.
or you can squeeze another one in. But I used the same thing to make the flaps lever with a two-position flaps lever, and I used the same sort of thing for the chassis lever, for the gears for the Spitfire. Uh, so, and again, a fuel switch, magneto, all these things would be the same sort of device. You just drop it in, you work out the range of movement that you want. You just design the lever really, and the visuals and the shape of it and so on.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think it's really cool that you were making custom designs for like solutions that even I think are like a lot smarter than a lot of the out of the box ones.
Yeah, I mean, well, there are limits,
Yeah.
where you probably can't do anything newer than about 1980 or something, just because everything got small and
Hmm.
touchscreen, and very. But certainly the technology of Spitfires and well, yeah, 172s and that sort of era, even some of the Cold War jet sort of things.
Yeah.
They're still sort of chunky levers. There's space to do stuff in 3D printing, and space to sort of have a little component. It's not sort of micro engineering yet.
Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, we're working with somebody on the mosquito. In fact, that's an exciting thing. The fact that this mosquito project, this is the first one where I've only been involved just to sort of help and advise.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm excited about that. I'm just bouncing around some pictures on Discord. This guy Harry is he's designing it. Um, we're working on a switch. He wants to use a different switch. I said, use the switch. We all want to use. And he said, well, this one for this case actually. So he's persuaded me. So there's a nice. In fact, he claims it's a proper. I think I might call it the ministry switch. It's a proper Ministry of Aviation, authentic, Second World War switch. He reckons
Huh.
it's a pretty accurate design. So it's kind of earned its place, I think. So that's going to be a thing for switching on a supercharger on the Mosquito. But again, I said, well, let's make it, but then let's whittle it down to be the simplest thing that we can put it in to switch anything on or off, and all you
Hmm.
need to do is change the lever shape.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really
Thanks.
cool that you're going into places where you can have like collaboration. I think that's something that a lot of the times really cool projects like yours are missing that. So it's really cool that you're doing that with the mosquito.
Yeah, yeah. There's another one. But there's a very exciting aircraft that a lot of people like of the late Second World War. That there's a guy who's been making a thing. I don't know if you'd like me to talk about it, but I'll give you the flavor. He's been making these um, they were it's a yoke control on it. Is it a fighter bomber? Yeah, probably. Yoke control on it, and he's been selling them, um, and they're beautiful. He does them to a really high standard, but he 3D prints them, and he's also put them into cockpits and sort of full size things for
Mm.
people to have an immersion. But he said he really liked what AuthentiKit was doing, so he's now making a version, and I'm sort of collaborating with him, making a version um, that will be AuthentiKit compatible, that will be 3D printable using the standards. He'd normally
Oh,
sand it
cool.
down and polish it and resin finish it, and so we're just working out the right sort of compromises. It won't be as beautiful as he would have done before, but he's got the CAD for it. He knows all about it, so we're working on that. Um, I think there'll be a lot of them. I've got to probably have to sort of scale back a bit on ones I work on and just sort of help other people and create the materials. I
Mhm.
think is the way. Create the materials and the standards so that other people can make them.
That's awesome. Yeah. So right now you have, it looks like four. So you have the Spitfire MKIX, MK1A,
Yeah,
P40B Tomahawk, um,
yeah,
and Vintage GA. Or like that's
yeah.
on your website.
Vintage GA's actually that was going full throttle about 2 years ago. Um, because all this began, what sort of just gave me the impetus to do it was that I was using Aerofly FS2, which it's always been great in VR, but they
Mhm.
never really got all the functionality that people look for. And then the Flying Iron guys who brought the Spitfire out for Microsoft said they would do the Spitfire for Airfly. So I was really excited about that and got in touch with Alex at Flying Iron and said, "How about we have a replica, 3D printed control, and then if you want to fly your Spitfire, you could hold the real thing." So we worked on that for a bit, and that didn't entirely come together. And I was in sort of limbo a bit then because I was enjoying Aeroflight, and but the Spitfire wasn't going to happen, and it
Mm.
sort of I thought, right, well, what's a nice aircraft? So I did a load of stuff with a DR400. So there's a video on the AuthentiKit channel there where I made a stick and did some radio stuff as well. Did well, nav stuff, made some VOR things and some heading bug and a bunch of things. So that I need to sort of return to that at some point. But the components are there. There's brake levers. I'm just looking at my on the wall here where I've got everything lined up. I've got trim wheels. I've got yeah, of course it's a push pull knob for the throttle there rather than a lever. So I did a load of stuff with sort of silicon bearings and things. So I've kind of got a bunch of things ready there as well. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then we've got the Mosquito. So we're listing these, aren't we? That's four. Um, um, and this other thing, which I'll find out if I can talk about soon, which is a sort of World War II thing. Mm, yeah, I've decided I just need to sort of whittle it down a bit and stay focused. Otherwise, it's you can get it spread a bit too thin.
Yeah, definitely. Focus is something hard for me to come by. So,
You're
yeah,
building stuff and you're making podcasts and you're doing your Discord. It stretches you, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, it's good though.
So do you need anything at the moment?
Um,
Do you need anything? Did you get that? I don't know if you got your fuel selector, but you should let me know if there's some part that you're needing a component for or something.
I should. I'll write that down.
Yeah.
Sweet. So it looks like. Oh, another thing I really liked about AuthentiKit was that everything is designed around the
Oh
VESA
yeah.
monitor
Yeah.
mounts. So
Yeah.
I really like
Yeah.
I really like how they're stowable, and that's something that's really important to a lot of people because you don't. My simulator takes up about like 8 feet by 8 feet
Oh.
roughly. So it
Yeah.
takes up like a car space in the garage because my sister
Yeah.
moved off to college. So
You took over.
I took over, yeah. That was a lucky break. But not all simulators can be like that. So it's really handy that they're so compact and like stowable. You can just put it to the side when you're done with it. So that's
Yeah, I
something,
mean,
yeah.
I've got it all sort of set up here, and you can keep the clamps on the desk if you want, but then you just sort of loosen it with an Allen key, and you can just rotate everything um, underneath the desk. You don't even need to. If you still want your desk, if you want your desk back, you want to kind of work at the desk, as I do. You just sort of rotate the left hand
Mhm.
sort of side of the cockpit under the desk and out of the way, the right hand side, and yeah, you've got a working desk again. So that again, that was another thing which I felt if it takes up a load of space. In fact, I stopped using the term home cockpit for a while because I thought that just creates a certain impression.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. It's the 5 minute home cockpit. I've got to invent some branding or something. So you can set it up in 5 minutes, take it down again.
Mhm.
That was one of the things I wanted to do, and that's working out quite well. And the other thing is not just when you say the Visa plates. One of the things that I wanted there was this quick release idea. So they just slot on, and then you can lift them off. You lift off the throttle quadrant, unplug the network socket, and then switch from a Spitfire one to a P40B, um, or some GA kind of quadrant. So that was something I wanted to do as well. Otherwise, it would just be too much hassle. If you, I'm thinking if you really like flying one or two aircraft and you'd switch between those or two or three even, and it would be not too off-putting to say, right, I'll swap the controls.
Mhm.
I won't just fly with the controls I had and remember where they are, even though they look different. I'll swap them around. It's not too daunting to do that. So I think that kind of works. In fact, I was even thinking today because they've just brought out the Twin Otter for Microsoft, and these monitor stands, which it's all based on,
Mhm.
which are great because they're not expensive for strong steel, heavy duty things. Um, I do a kind of weird thing by mounting them upside down, so the poles are below and everything's kind of down at your elbow level.
Mhm.
But you can mount them the right way up, of course. So with the Twin Otter, when it's kind of got its throttle over your head, I mean, where else
Oh.
can you get flight controls which are kind of up in the air? Um, Nobody can do that. None of your kind of thrustmaster gear
Yeah.
is going to do that. But yeah, I just thought you just turn the monitor pull the right way up, and then put the bracket up above you, and you've got your throttle, above your head.
That's awesome. The, I think it's so like it's so cool how you thought of the Visa monitor stands because I don't think a lot of other people have used those in home cockpits like that, and especially upside down.
Oh no, I haven't seen it. No, I looked at a load of things. That's been one of the challenges, really, is to find commodity things that you're going to use them for nothing like the purpose they were built. So how do you search for them on Google?
Yeah,
uh, this takes a lot of Googling sometimes, and you go, that looks like a thing that
definitely.
would work in this situation. Yeah.
I love the like pivot of the simulator. My microphone is on a pivot, and I just like whack it out of the way,
Yeah.
and then get it back for podcasts and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
what. So it's kind of similar to that, where it's just convenient to like toss it aside while you're working and bring it back when you need it and stuff like
Mm.
that. So I really like that idea of it. Um, and also, yeah, the quick release plates. Those are so convenient. Um, I have quick release plates on all of my cameras, and it's super good to have it standardized and easy to remove like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're working quite well. It'll be a challenge for well, the mosquitoes are chunky control, so we're kind of wondering how well it bears up there. And I'm working on, oh, of course, the Mustang. There's lots of progress going on with the Mustang at the moment, and that's going to be big. So if that fits on one Visa, I don't know. I think that might need to go on two Visa plates because it's going to occupy. It's going to be made in three pieces. It's it needs three Ender 3 beds to make
Oh
this thing.
wow.
Yeah, or two and a half. So it's going to be quite chunky. So it might need to go on a couple of Visa plates, but the idea
Hmm.
still works. 'Cause that's got uh, they call it the pedestal. It's got the elevator trim on the left. It's got the aileron trim, the rudder trim. Then it's got a bunch of air things to do with ram air and another carb air
Hmm.
thing. Then flap levers. Oh, and landing gear as well. So all of that is in this one sort of unit. So I just decided to make that as one thing, really. Um, it'll just plug in like the rest.
Yeah, I'm looking at the mosquito controls right now. That's huge.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
that's definitely a design pro or like design challenge. That's gonna be fun. I wonder what it'll look like.
Yeah, I mean, which are you looking at? Sort of CAD, or are you looking at a printed one, a made
Just
one?
the cockpit of a
Ah, right.
mosquito.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That'll
Okay.
be fun. It's
Yeah, I'm
always.
trying to. No, I think we've got because we've got I put it on. I don't know if it's on Facebook or where it is on the AuthentiKit website, but we've got an almost complete one printed. Just talking about some detents. Need to get to working out. I haven't got any detents on anything at the moment, so we need that at a certain point where it kind of locks in place, and um, and that switch. But there's not too many things there. Well, remaining really. Harry's done a fantastic job with it. It just looks superb. Um, got those orange levers as well on the prop, so I don't know. They cool. They just look good.
Oh, good.
Twin engine, I should add as well. Yes, that's another interesting thing about this. It's a twin engine, which is a challenge because we're maxed out on the current circuit board. We're
Oh
the
yeah.
yeah. I mean, most of the people who do home cockpit building just have a whole bank of Arduinos and Bodners and that sort
Hmm.
of thing. But I'm one of the things I thought is rather than have each control have the expensive stuff in it, the circuit board, let's have one circuit board
Hmm.
and let's just plug everything in. So at the moment, everything is hanging off just one circuit board, which brings the cost down a lot. But we're maxed out on the axes. Fortunately, the Mosquito doesn't have it has an auto mixture. Um,
Oh, good.
so yeah, because otherwise we need six straight away for the quadrant times two,
Yeah.
and then I've already used up three on the flight stick,
Hmm.
so we'll be over it. But yeah, twin engines.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Have you ever considered making rudder pedals or looked
yeah.
into it?
People ask. Few people have started it. Um, I it's down my list a bit, probably because I'm mainly interested in the stuff that you see,
Hmm.
reach out and touch. Um, that makes you, I mean, ideally, and I'm watching the hand tracking stuff. I've been, that's been a roller coaster for about 5 years, really. All these companies saying they're going to bring out VR gloves and hand tracking, but ideally, you're reaching out in VR, see your hand, make contact with something, and then it feels exactly like that. So those are the things I like. So the rudder pedals, you kind of don't see them. Um,
Yeah.
you can buy good rudder pedals, and you can buy affordable ones or expensive ones, and you know, you don't really see them, and they all work similar-ish.
Yeah.
Um, so I, yeah, it's not been super high on my list. Um, but I would be more than happy for somebody to make them, and the controls have, and people have started it, but it's take time, life gets in the way. But the components I've made would certainly work with it. The this mag hall thing I made, which has got the magnet in, the hall sensor in, the bearing, the wire connectors. Put one of those in, and you just need to look after the pivoting action, and you've got the rudder side of it. This would do the electronics, and it would even hold it. I mean, the bearing for this thing I use, it's the thing that goes inside washing machines. It's strong, so that would handle it. So other people could do it, and I've got some components they could use.
Yeah, these are strong. I th-
Mm.
they're very nice. And they're pretty smooth too. Sorry, I got
Smooth.
distracted. These are nice bearings. Yeah. Oh, I've lost my train of thought.
What is the, because I haven't got a picture here. What is the item you've got in your hand at the moment? Is it
um,
one of the?
yeah, it's just one of the larger bearings. Um,
All right,
for
right.
the Spitfire.
Was it a trim wheel that you've got there, or?
Oh, it's the spade, the controls.
Oh, all right, the spade grip, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great thing to see come off the printer, isn't it?
It's
Never
so
tire of.
satisfying. Yeah.
You just see that thing growing off the print bed. It's great.
Yeah. Mine, the first one I printed with like 10% infill because I kind of like to do
Mm.
things cheaply. And then
Yeah.
I printed it with 50% infill and it feels
Oh,
so super nice. It's like, that was the difference.
yeah. It's actually it's surprising that it's strong enough often at
Yeah.
10. I mean, I don't recommend 10, but um, I don't know, when I was first getting used to my printer, I had some sort of wobbles and things weren't very strong, and you start to get doubts about the strength of it. But then you get
Hmm.
it dialed in, and the layers go down smoothly, and they bond well and everything. And it's amazing what 10% can give you. It can be really strong, but you don't get the heft, do you? You don't get that
Yeah.
sort of weight of it. I did a bit of looking into whether you can use these ones with particles of steel and copper and that sort of thing, just to add some weight. But the advice I got is you'll really suffer on strength, just layer
Ah,
adhesion and so on. So, but that would have been nice, just to have it actually have some metal in it. That would
that
have
would
been
be
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, maybe it's not stronger at all, but it's so much heavier, and that makes me think it's stronger, which is good enough
mm,
for me. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, also, I want to. I'm thinking of doing some tests actually. These destruction tests, because
Mm.
there are some people who would, I'm sure, doubt that 3D printed stuff can be strong enough. But well, it can be very strong. They do these carabiner tests, don't they, where they just
Yeah.
hang huge weights off them and see how long they go for. Um, and yeah, they're strong. The only issue I've had with the usual PLA, which is just great to print with, it just prints really easily and smoothly, is just don't leave it in a window on a hot day.
Oh yeah.
Um, mm, I've got those Visa wedge things. I got one of those with a thumbprint right through it. Um, and this is England, you know. We didn't get that hot. So, but in a window on a sunny day, it will soften up, and you could press your finger through it.
Yeah, that happened with me. I left my PLA part out to dry before I engraved it, and it like
Mm.
totally warped up, and it was like all the edges turned up. It's it was not what I was looking for when I came
No,
out to get it.
no. I got to keep it from a window, haven't you? But there's loads of filaments out there. It's just really growing this 3D printing thing, and there's new stuff coming out. There's a thing called PLAX, which I print a
Hmm.
few things now and again with, and it prints. You need a good 30, 40 degrees C hotter. I
Mm.
think that translates into the fact that it can tolerate quite a bit more heat before it goes soft, and it prints like iron. It's fantastic, and it's so if I need something really strong, I use that. It's a bit more expensive, but not crazy expensive. So it's really coming along. This whole 3D printing,
Yeah,
things are improving all the time.
that's really cool. I've never heard of that, but I used a PLAF or something, and it's a little bit
All
stronger
right.
too. It's like another
Yeah,
variant, I guess.
yeah,
But it's super cool,
yeah.
all the innovations with 3D printing right now.
Yeah. And then the carbon filament stuff. So you got carbon fiber basically. That's strong. Um, and then polycarbonate sorts of things. And these Creality guys that make the Ender, they seem to invent a brand new printer every week, don't they? They're constantly making new printers. So they've got some now that have a case. When you get a case, you get temperature control, and temperature control lets you print more exotic, I suppose they call it, filaments.
Mhm.
But the stuff, what you can get for your money now is fantastic, and the quality of the printing technology.
Yeah, it's 3D printers have been like a game changer. And you'll see this
Mm.
like looking at all the blogs where they use like where they'll like hot glue bottle caps to soda cans and have those as the throttle levers and like crazy weird solutions. And now we're just like design it real quick and print it, and after like 3 hours you have a working part. So it's really crazy the like all of the like solutions back before 3D printing, where like you'd have to make your own parts, either whether that be like finding random stuff to go together or like
Yeah,
carving it. That's just crazy to me.
yeah. I was never very good at that. Well, I did it, but I always drill the hole in just slightly the wrong place. Even however hard you measure it, and you just make a little counter punch, and you just get just the right spot to drill a tiny hole in steel or something. It would just be slightly off. Really annoying. I love
Yeah.
the fact that you print stuff to kind of 0.1 mil precision.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's so cool. I like getting a printer piece off the part and it just snaps together and like works. That's
Mm.
so that's so satisfying.
It is, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you just every now and again you look at a thing and you think, I just made this thing.
Yeah.
Somebody would pay hundreds of dollars for this thing, and it just looks like a proper machined, engineered part. Yeah. I'm seeing all over the forums, there's constantly people saying, I need a 3D printer. I need a 3D printer for either for parts, for flight controls, or for, I don't know, all these little mods that people are doing for VR headsets to mount headphones or to mount
Mhm.
um, those leap motion things for hand
Ah,
tracking, or all sorts of little tweaks. People are saying, I need a 3D printer so I can make a little adapter. Um, and just the whole stick that together with the whole internet sharing culture and the
yeah.
Thingiverse thing, where you make it once and thousands of people benefit. It's it's taken off, isn't it?
Mhm. It's so Thingiverse is so nice. I love it.
Yeah, and there's loads more as well. There's GrabCAD. There's several other websites and sort of download areas, um, and probably sensibly as well. Some of them you can go buy something
Yeah.
quite sophisticated. which, it's nice to get it free, but there's times when somebody's put hundreds and hundreds of hours into it, and you can sort of get this part um, and use it in your project, and they can sell it for a sensible price because several people can get it. So yeah, it's good to have that sort of payware type of option as well.
Yeah, it's cool. I really am like just fascinated by all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of like sharing culture, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Rotary Encoder to Axie thing that I
Oh
think
yeah. Hmm.
I think it was Coleman put together.
Yeah, Ian Coleman. Yeah. This was something that we've been working on for a while, and a big, huge thank you to Ian for doing it. Um, because he didn't know how to do it when he started, but he knew a bit of it, and you know what it's like. It kind of you get you a bit between your teeth, and you think, right, I'll work this out, and he ended up putting in far more time than I think he expected to. But we now have an amazing tool, and it's not just AuthentiKit that's benefiting from it. And what it does is you you can create something, a trim wheel or any rotary sort of device. There's probably other things it would apply to. I don't know, dimmer on cabin lights, all sorts of things, I guess. Anything that rotates. Um, Build it around a rotary encoder, and these things are incredibly cheap. And what that will do is it'll generate little clicks and pulses, as you know, and the number of clicks and pulses per revolution varies depending on the type of encoder you've got. Might be 12, might be 24. Then it's hit and miss really as to whether that rate of clicking turns into the rate of rotation that you want in the sim. It's
Yeah.
just a bit of a gamble depending on your encoder and other things. And there was a period when Microsoft would seem to be always changing rate at which trim wheels turned. It's similar with a mouse scroll as well. That's generating little clicks as you do it, and so I guess they're trying to make it produce a useful amount of rotation for people who've got a scroll, or they've kind of got there's flight velocity, I think it's called. They make a trim wheel, um, and they're always messing with it, and people are always saying, "Oh, it's no good for them." So what we've done is made an app, just a little add-on app, and you can tune it. You can take those pulses, and you can say how many pulses equates to one revolution, and it then generates a second um, control device. So if you plug in this kit, it would say either AuthentiKit, or if the original board name, it would say the BU08368 board. So it would show that up in your game controllers list. But once you've set up the tuning app, you get this VJoy app, which Ian didn't write. It's something that's out there as a shareware thing. That becomes an axis. So as I now sort of click my encoder, I rotate it round. I'll see click click one direction, I'll click 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 the other. But then if I go and look at the VJoy option, I can see that smoothly moving between 0 and 100. So then I can go into whatever simulator and map not to the pulse version but to the axis version. And if you find that, so then you just need to work out exactly what the right tuning level is, and it might be slightly different. I found it to be quite different actually between different aircraft. I think sometimes the aircraft designer thinks I will make it oversensitive or I'll make it undersensitive because people aren't used to trim wheels, so let's not have it do some crazy stuff with the slightest twist of your wrist. So I think the aircraft designers sometimes do odd things, but you can deal with that. You can just say, right, I'm going to fly this aircraft, so the sensitivity is like 100. I think that's doesn't directly equate to anything. It's just a number that emerged, and that will produce the right sort of rotation. And if you want, say, the Spitfire to be absolutely accurate, which is meant to be 2 full turns between fully down and fully up trim, just set the tuning right, and it will be 2 full turns, and that will be exactly right in the sim. So that is, yeah, it's a fantastic piece of software.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard a little bit about this, and I just thought it was really cool to see how it like came from an idea, and it's something I don't think exists anywhere else. So, like this is something you that you guys invented.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it's. I don't know about the technologies that the home cockpit building world use. I know about SPAD.next and these sorts of things. I guess that there might be something in amongst them, but you've got to pay for those, and also you get a lot of
Mm.
things that you don't need. Again, thinking about the audience of home cockpit builders, but people who just want to like plug in a joystick. They just want the simplest stuff. So I thought, right, let's make something. We'll give it away free. It'll only be the simple things we need, um, and we can even preload, make presets. So it comes with a preset for the Spitfire,
Hmm.
and then if people are making presets for other aircraft, um, you can just include those when he when he makes new versions. So already, for example, the mentioned it on the Microsoft forum, and somebody there'd been a thread going about the honeycomb throttle and the trim wheel on that, and the fact that that wasn't very aligned and attuned. And again, that is it's a pulse based thing, so it's not an axis, so you can't control it very easily.
Hmm.
So somebody's already jumped onto it and they're using it, and they've got the honeycomb quadrant and the trim wheel working just to the way they need it as well. So yeah, I don't mind. People, if people can use it for existing commercial trim wheels, go ahead. It can be used for all sorts.
Yeah.
Um, it's the other thing that Ian is a genius stroke of work here. That Ian came up with a way as well of doubling the resolution. Um, so you normally get 24 pulses, but sometimes with these trim wheels, you do a little click and you see the trim wheel sort of jump, quite a big jump, and you think, oh, it
Mm.
doesn't seem really smooth enough. Um, I guess you could buy a really expensive encoder, and it would have like 50 or 60 tiny little clicks as you go around. But this is 24. But Ian came up with a way of doubling it to 48. He worked out that underneath behind the scenes, the Leo Bodner circuit board, in order to know that a click had happened in one direction, it receives a sort of pair of pulses. Um,
Huh.
a little. I don't understand it properly. You see these square wave sort of
Yeah.
diagrams, don't you? There's a little thing, and there's a little up and down or open and close or something. So we worked out that if he could detect those and actually get to 48 clicks per revolution instead of working on the kind of derived version that Bodner was using and passing on as a pulse. So yeah, we've managed to get much more resolution and get this nice smooth 0 to 100 axis uh, option.
That's really cool. I've never heard about the like two pulse thing with the Leopard Nurse. That's
Yeah,
that's
people learn about it by accident because what happens if you plug in an encoder? You've probably done this. You plug an encoder into the Bodmer board, and if you don't run the little calibration software, the little they don't call it that, they call it something else. It's not really calibration; it's a configuration thing. Don't say to them to the board, right? These two inputs are actually up and down of an encoder. If it doesn't know that, um, you start turning the encoder. You see if it's at pin 11 and 12, you see 11 and 12 thrashing away like crazy. You're only going one way. So then when you tell the Bodmer board, these are actually an encoder, it goes, all right. It knows, it works out what's going on and turns it into just clicks on one of the pins. Um, so yeah, he basically, if you turn off that configuration, don't tell the board that it's an encoder. It just spews out that low level data, and Ian's software takes it in and gets underneath everything and does the extra resolution.
that's really cool. That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
genius. The other thing that this it's not just going to be tuning as well because what I've um, thought this will need to do as well is so you've got say a Spitfire quadrant, and your throttle lever, it rotates whatever. It's probably only like 40 degrees, I guess, really. Not that it's not, you might think it's like 90 degrees of rotation. It's probably only 40. And then you take that out and you put, say, a Mosquito lever in, and that might have a really big throw range.
Mm-hmm.
So you've gone and calibrated your quadrant, and 0 and 100 and everything have got certain sorts of electrical output, or by that point it's digital output, because it's 1024 or 419, 4196, isn't it? It's 12 bit, so there's quite a lot of resolution there. So it knows that 0 to 100 ranges digitally between, I don't know, like 1,000 and 3,000. You put a different quadrant in, and now 0 is 500 instead of 1,000. So there you are, thinking you're on idle, and you're actually revving away. So you've got to recalibrate your control. What we can do within software is pre-store. So you say, right, I've just swapped the P40B quadrant in. That's got slightly different settings to the Spitfire one, or the DR400 one. Or I want to do some Piper stuff, actually. So the Piper Warrior, for example, would be nice. So you put your Piper Warrior one in. You need a different calibration range. So we'll get the software to preload that, and you straight away, you've got it calibrated and running smoothly.
That's awesome. Is it by airplane, or do you manually select which airplane you use?
You would, I think you'd just sort of, yeah, I mean, it probably will just, in the same way that you'd do it in Simulator, you'd say this setting, and it might be a combination of the aircraft you're using, and yeah, it'd be by airplane. That probably is. Yeah.
That's cool.
Have to see how it evolves. It has kind of occurred to me that we'll need something like that, and probably many more things. He just doesn't know what he's got himself in for, but he's a helpful fellow, nice guy.
He is.
Yeah.
What is, or like, so you've been building, how many years have you been building simulators?
Couple, 3. No, it's not long, really.
Yeah.
What happened? I think about 2018, actually. I got a motion platform.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so what was it? No, it was 5 years ago. Got a motion platform, and it was one of these. It's called Doff Reality. These guys, they're in the Ukraine, and it's emerged from this kind of sharing, hacker kind of culture of people modding and making their own stuff. And in order to use it, you've kind of got to go to this X Simulator forum and get a certain bit of software, and then you start discovering that the design these guys are selling is sort of a design that people are sharing as an open source type of design. So I think that's probably when I started learning about these things. Then I made a G seat that I added onto it, one of those things that give you a sense of G-force, and you get pressure in your back as you accelerate. So I built something like that with servo motors. That was 4 years ago, and then the 3D printing just changed everything, and my tungsten steel drills never got used again.
Yeah. So so there are a lot of new simulator builders that in the audience. What do you think your best advice to any new simulator builders would be?
I mean, having a go is always got to be good advice, hasn't it? Because there's just, I mean, when you've got a Discord channel, we've got a Discord channel, that there's a fantastic, helpful community. It's really good seeing, people. One of the best things I saw was this guy. can't pronounce his name. I can't even try. He's in Belgium, and he said he's a warbird fanatic. Oh, he had two left hands, I think he said. But I said, "Oh, you're ideal. You're just the person I'm looking for." This was a chat on YouTube, so I persuaded him, and he got a little bit stuck, but he got tons of help, and he was absolutely thrilled. He'd got this Spitfire spade stick working, and he just had such a smooth control. You know, the resolution and the control over the stick was just way more than he'd had before, and he absolutely loved it. So I'd say that, yeah, the community's there, and very helpful, and very sort of willing to help new people. So having a go would be one. Yeah, just try it out and learn. I think that would be my recommendation.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people, I think, are afraid and kind of hesitant to start, but I really think, like, if you don't want to start big, you can start small and just like do it, like work on small projects. Maybe start AuthentiKit, which is probably not the smallest project you can do, but it's so
Oh,
cool.
you say that actually.
Um,
That's a very good point, and I did think that, which is
yeah,
why I didn't recommend people did the stick. We've got a trim wheel,
yeah,
um, and something like that. You can build your confidence. Is, I guess, your point.
exactly. So if you're not sure you'd like it, go for an AuthentiKit trim wheel or something like that, and see how it goes. Um, I'll make sure to link to everything, or at least most of the things we talked about, um, on. Uh-oh, I forget every time I do the podcast. What episode are we on? We are on episode, I think 12? No, 13.
13.
We,
Dear.
oh no, last time was 13. Don't worry, we don't get
Really?
it. It won't be unlucky this time. It'll be a very lucky podcast. Um, so this will be captainbobsim.com/14. Um,
Mhm.
and if you go over there, I'll link to AuthentiKit. You can find the video version of this podcast, this software we talked about, the YouTube, where you can find the kits, all sorts of stuff like that. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Thinking about your point of confidence, I'll have to send you a link to. I did a trim wheel challenge. I decided trim wheel was going to be so easy to make. It would be the one that people should build for confidence. So the winner of the trim wheel challenge assembled it under 5 minutes,
Oh,
and he
wow.
made a video of himself doing it. So we'll put that on as your confidence builder.
Mhm. And if it takes you more than 5 minutes, that's okay. Don't worry.
Fine, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day and doing this.
Absolute pleasure, Trevor. Yeah, it's been good fun talking to you.
Absolutely. You as well. Let's try one thing really quickly. I don't know which way it is, but every podcast we like to do a virtual high five. So I think if you go to your right, to your
My
left.
right, my left.
Yes, your left. We can do a high five.
This.
A little to a little left. There we go. Perfect. Then I'll screenshot that, and we'll have a virtual high five. So thank you so much again. Head over to captainbobsim.com/14 and have a fantabulous rest of your day. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Awesome. That's a wrap.